July fishing in the South is usually related to either deep water fishing or shallow water brim fishing. Fishing for fish up eating bluegills, or up there eating bluegills spawning, eating mayflies, anything like that. So if I'm narrowing it down to 3 baits I want to use in July, August, you know, that summertime hot weather fishing, I'm pretty much going to limit it to 2 shallow baits and 1 deep bait. And there's a lot of other things I use, but these are the 3 main baits I use to target these fish they will bite. There might be better ways to catch them, but this is a good way to start. You go to a lake you don't know, or maybe it's just a time of year you're not real familiar with. These are good baits that can get you bites in July, August, that hot weather months. So one of my favorite baits, everybody knows, I made a lot of money over the years in the summer on a buzzbait. So when it comes to hot weather fishing, there's those fish up there eating bluegills, they're willing to bite, but there's not many of them, and you have to cover a lot of water to catch them. Well, buzzbait's one of the best baits to cover a lot of water and put in front of a lot of fish, and then usually any of those fish up there looking for a bluegill, whether it's a bluegill up there eating mayflies or sitting in the shade or whatever, that buzzbait's a good imitation of it. The one thing I do different in the summertime, I like a green pumpkin, horny toad, Z-crawl, green pumpkin soft plastic on that buzzbait, because you're trying to imitate a bluegill more so than a shad. Most of those fish that are up eating shad are now offshore. So when you're up shallow, you're trying to throw something that imitates a bluegill. Green pumpkin, watermelon, any type of natural color like that is a good imitator. And with that buzzbait, what I like to do is, obviously I'm looking for anywhere there's bluegills up shallow, whether it's, you know, the brim beds or shade lines. You're just covering a lot of water until you put something together. Whether it's, you know, sometimes it's the back of pockets because that's where bluegills like to bed, or it might be the deep banks going in where there's some shade that the bluegills are sitting up there eating mayflies. So you kind of got to figure out a pattern on what they're looking for, but a buzzbait is perfect for that because you cover a lot of water. It's a fast moving, you never have to stop, and your hookup ratio is really good with a soft plastic on there because you're not reeling quite as fast as you would with a skirt. So the fish get that soft plastic really good, and you hook them and you put them in the boat because you're not going to get a ton of bites, but a lot of them will be big fish. So the appropriate setup for a buzzbait makes a huge difference for getting the fish in the boat. So I've designed a rod specifically in my Cobb Series line of arc rods this far buzzbait. A buzzbait rod is really specific because you need some backbone to get those fish out of cover. You've got a big hook so you won't get them in the boat fast, but you have to have a soft tip rod so the fish can get the bait. So I made a 7-1 heavy. It's my buzz burner rod. It's specifically made for a buzzbait. And it's the perfect rod to make sure you hook those fish, but you can also get them in the boat quick because I throw on heavy line, 50-pound Yo-Zuri braid with the Arc G7 7-1 reel. So I get them in the boat really fast when they eat it. That is probably my primary shallow covering water bait in the summer. Summertime fishing in July, a lot of fish that I actually catch up shallow, they're up there eating bluegills, things like that, and I'm covering water with the buzzbait, but every now and then you'll just see a fish. Like there might be a fish sitting up there, no real rhyme or reason to it. You're going down the bank and you just see a big fish sitting up there in the shade, or see one cruising down the bank. What they're doing, they're up there eating bluegills, but if you don't have the right bait ready, they're hard to catch. That's just the fact of it. You need to have a finesse bait that you can land in front of that fish, let him see it, put him in the boat. Sometimes they'll bite the buzzbait, but then sometimes they won't, and you end up messing them up on a power bait like that. So one of my favorite baits, everybody knows, a Zoom fluke stick. This is just a basic stick worm, wacky rigging on a 1/0 hook. If you see a fish, he's probably gonna bite it. It's one of the best imitators of anything a fish eats. I mean, when they see it falling, they can't help but eat it when it falls in front of them. And I keep it on deck. I don't necessarily fish with it all day, but I keep it on deck for something that I see looks like a likely scenario, whether it's a real shady shallow dock or it's a bush overhanging, or I might just see a 4-pounder swimming down the bank. You gotta have this ready because if you throw the wrong bait at him, then that's one fish you may have caught that you didn't have anything out to catch him. So the fluke stick's a perfect bait for doing that. I designed a rod with the Arc in my Cobb Series as well. It's the 610 Hartwell Magic. It's the perfect rod for it. You need a soft tip so you can skip it. The bait's not real heavy, so it's kind of hard to present. So it's got a soft tip, skip it in those overhangs, but enough backbone to hook the fish and get them out into open water, because this is more of like a power finesse technique, I'd say, because you're not really fishing the stick worm. You're just keeping it to throw it at targets, and it's like long range flipping. So it's a good bait to just have on the deck. Not something I fish with all day, but you have it ready for when you need it. So one of the last baits I always have tied on in July, August, you know, that hot weather fishing, is you have to have a deep water bait. That's just the fact of it. Some lakes, when there's no bluegills up shallow, just nothing to eat up shallow, most of the fish go out deep. It's It's not my favorite thing to do, but it's definitely something you have to do in a lot of lakes in a lot of those hot weather months. So when it comes to fishing deep, throw a lot of things. I throw a Yo-Zuri crankbait, a big flutter spoon. I throw a lot of things out deep, but one thing they always bite out deep is a Zoom mag trick worm. And this bait's just a bait that if you land on a school of fish, you know they'll eat it. It's something I've thrown all around the country, from up north all the way down to Florida, and they eat it. I like green pumpkin or red bug in the summer. Throw it on a bigger shaky head. This is a greenfish tackle creeper head. It's the perfect shaky head for throwing it out deep. It varies in sizes. You can get an 1/8 all the way up to 1 ounce. I like a 1/2 or even a 3/4. Throw out deep, get it on the bottom quick. You can throw at targets and drag it through brush, drag it through shell beds, throw it this fish out deep, and it's something that I have confidence in they're gonna bite. Big crankbaits, things like that, is really good when you get an active school of fish, but sometimes they don't wanna eat it. So this big shaky head, you know if you landed them, they're probably gonna bite it. I throw it on a bigger rod. I've got a 7-4 long gain, my Cobb series with Arc. It's made for throwing something out deep, making long cast, and you can take up enough line to hook those fish and get them in the boat. You don't really need that heavy a line to do this. If you use too heavy a line, it won't stay on the bottom very well. I use 12 or 14 pound Yo-Zuri T7, and that's just to keep your bait down a little deeper. You could get away with heavier line, you'd be better off with it, but to hook the fish, you got less line drag, less things like that, your bait stays on the bottom better. So I like lighter line, 14 pound test or so. But these 3 baits, 2 shallow, 1 deep, are baits that in July and August, your buzzbait, your wacky worm, and your deep shaky head, your mag trick worm, are baits that work all around the country in the summer, July, when the fish get out deep or up shallow. It's just good ways to start, good starting points when you get on your lake to give it a whirl.